Chair, the COVID-19 public health emergency has impacted greatly upon and dislocated a great deal of medico-political activity. But before I go any further, I would like to thank Rosie Hogwood, the Committee Secretary, and Rosemary Hammond, the Committee Support Officer, for their magnificent help under difficult circumstances whilst working from home, and they have helped to maintain a near seamless operation. Indeed, similar remarks can be made of the entire BMA staff, and I hope you would join me in expressing such sentiments. Some of these impacts on PFC have been in connection with the immediate and necessary amendments to activity in order to maintain patient services and access to other essential facilities in life, and other areas of our work have come to a standstill because of prioritisation of such work or absence from work of other parties involved in other aspects of our work, full stop. We have been involved in temporary modification because of COVID-19 in connection with the coronial system, death certification, driver licensing, Department for Work and Pensions, Social Security claims. All of these areas cross traditional branch of practice lines, and we have worked closely with the major branches of practice as appropriate, and I would like to thank in particular their negotiating teams, and especially the GPC negotiating team and its Deputy Chairman Mark Sanford Wood. One piece of substantive work which we've almost concluded is the Memorandum of Understanding with the Home Office and the Department of Health concerning firearms licensing procedures, and we expect a formal announcement shortly following a stakeholder consultation exercise by the Ministry of Justice, which is just closing. Mark has been an integral part of getting to a solution on this. It would be counterproductive to future relationships with external bodies to detail some of the unrealistic, prolonged, crazy and obstructive proposals to some COVID-19 generated problems in some areas of our professional endeavour. But it's more important to note that we managed to come to a working and workable arrangements for the duration of the emergency. Of course, the emergency has generated an impetus to new ways of working, which we may wish to continue after the end of the COVID-19 emergency, one of the most obvious being the electronic submission of data. And already we have been in discussion with some government departments on this. External agencies must, however, recognise that although paperwork may be reduced, the work of production, involving research, redaction of third-party harmful data and synthesis of a report, still requires considerable professional effort by a doctor, and this has to be appropriately rewarded. 2.5 years ago, the Professional Fees Committee, grossly dissatisfied with 10 years of freezes on fees, decided to take positive action. Many external bodies still regard doctors' services to be a free good, available and ready to be plundered, with an expectation of significant reporting and certification tasks in order to satisfy their own often inadequate administrative and regulatory procedures. It is not for doctors to subsidise the operation of other organisations. There is a signal lack of understanding that doctors' services are free only for those specified services under the NHS Acts. Production of any report, conduct of any exam, or the issuing of any certificate incurs often significant overheads not covered elsewhere. And then there is the thorny problem of reasonable reward, not only for the time taken to create such a report or undertake such work, but the value and responsibility attached to any document or certificate, physical or electronic, granted by the application of a medical practitioner's signature. Until 2007, many fees came under the aegis of collaborative fees, and they were upgraded annually, taking into account overheads by the DDRB. From 2004 to 2007, the DDRB requested information from both the government and the profession in order they could make a proper valuation and recommendation on collaborative fees work. The profession played its part fully and supplied data, but the government deliberately failed to supply data, and regrettably, rather than the DDRB having the guts to make recommendations based only on the profession's data, they caved in and decided to make no recommendations at all. The consequence is that published fees are 13 years old, no longer even covering the overheads of production of reports and certificates, let alone rewarding the doctor for their effort. That means doctors are no longer working just for nothing, but paying for the privilege of doing so, and matters have been compounded further with the introduction of GDPR, which we are now beginning to see the full effects of. Until the 25th of May 2018, subject access reports could cost up to £50, and many doctors charged that fee, irrespective, on the grounds that some requests cost less to produce and many cost considerably more, and so they adopted the swings and roundabouts approach. And since 20th of May 2018, it is not in general terms lawful to charge for subject access request. Informal research, which supports common consensus, demonstrates that many doctors, and particularly their practices, are receiving between 1 and 2 requests per week. They run to around 300 sheets of A4, and the copying time for technical reasons is up to 3 hours per report. And that is before postage or the doctor time involved reading the whole report, which is often well over an hour, in order to redact harmful information. Matters are compounded by the fact that many doctors are doing this compulsory work in their own time, and that insurance companies and law firms are now seeking to reduce their own overheads by seeking information through subject access requests rather than by a proper, appropriate, negotiated, costed and remunerated agreement. Therefore, in August 2020, I have asked the BMA lawyers to investigate whether this amounts to forced labour under the International Labour Organization definition, and I await the investigations of this with interest. Another area where doctors are being exploited is the issue of safeguarding reports. Payments to doctors for such work varies geographically, and Northampton County Council refused to pay for such work, and we have taken them to court. Formal judgment is awaited, and we will look at the details of that judgment in great depth. Spurred on by, amongst other things, GDPR and the collaborative fees fiasco, PFC resolved to undertake a proper costing exercise for doctors' work, including the overheads of production. The committee is not able to issue fee guides following its undertaking that it gave to the competition authorities in 2004. But what happens to that after the 31st of December 2020 when the UK leaves the EU is uncertain. But because of these undertakings, the only way for doctors to obtain a fair fee is by knowing how to calculate a fair and realistic fee. Most doctors are very poor at this, and therefore a fee engine has been constructed by the chairman of the Professional Fees Committee. The fee engine was showcased on the 4th of August 2019 to the committee secretariats and to membership services with excellent feedback. But we are bogged down in the business case process to industrialise the engine for the website as the benefit of membership. COVID-19 emergency or not, it cannot be right that we have waited over a year for progress on this issue. The production of the fee engine is a core trade union business function, just as the pension calculator is, and I call upon the BMA to get on with this. The fee engine has been examined by Queen's Counsel. It does not breach current competition law. Effectively, the only input the doctor has to make is how much per hour they want to earn clear of overheads, and only the individual doctor can decide that because of competition law. The fee engine is absolutely crucial, not only to the work of the Professional Fees Committee, but to all branch of practice committees and to the professional financial well-being of our members. There is enormous ignorance within society and government as to the cost of production of clinical work or clinical reports. All too often, when discussing fees, particularly with civil servants, their immediate response, to the exclusion of all other considerations, is that the rate of charge exceeds the annual earnings of the Prime Minister, completely missing the fact that the charge has to cover very significant overhead which is no longer picked up through the Department of Health as it was before 2004. As we move out of the immediate COVID-19 crisis, there will not only be the need to pick up professional fee threads where we left off, but in some cases deal with an enormous backlog of quasi-statutory work, such as, for example, medical information in connection with driver licensing and social security. We've already started discussions with relevant departments such as DVLA about how the backlog will be handled, and have made absolutely clear that the profession cannot simply pick up a 6 to 8 month backlog quickly, whether using new systems or not. The Professional Fees Committee oversees the single area of medical work where the argument, if you're not prepared to do X, your patient will suffer, does not hold. And it is the single area where we can hold out for proper remuneration and prevent abuse of the concept of vocation, where people expect doctors to work at a loss for nothing or at a discount just because we're doctors. We must start pursuing the gross injustice on individual doctors of collaborative fees. Last year, our President, Rhiannon Gillen, in his induction speech, talked of fairness in his inaugural address, and of fairness being a two-way street. And I refer you to my 2019 report about fairness to the profession, fairness to commissioners, and fairness to patients. So, for fees, we want the fee engine urgently, so that you as members can educate yourselves as to how to price your services, can decide what you want to earn per hour net, and can decide your own value and worth, thus making crystal clear the expectations of the medical profession. Government, commerce and the public have to learn that what a doctor charges is not what a doctor earns, that many of the costs are government or parliamentary inflicted. So in summary, don't undersell yourselves. The doctor is worthy of their fee. It is our privilege to waive our fees for those we believe might suffer, but it is not for the government to bully us into undertaking work for free, as they did, for example, the debt and mental health form. I move.